Perek HaMocher Abayis, Dav Samach Bey, sponsored the Refuah Shlema for Binyamin Chaim Ben Sarah. The Gemara describes one method of defining ambiguous terms in a contract. The cases where one owned two properties purchased from the house of Rabbi Akiva, referred to by that name. Contract stated the seller sold him land of the house of Rabbi Akiva. The buyer claimed both properties, whereas the seller claimed he intended to sell only one. The Gemara's resolution: number one, the contract states the singular form land indicates he sold one parcel. Number two, the contract states the plural form lands indicates two parcels. The burden of proof is on the buyer who claims more than two. Number three, the contract states all my land, it includes grain fields, not vegetable gardens or orchards. Number four, the contract states zihara, it includes all cultivated land but not houses or slaves. Number five, the contract stated nichasai, property, it includes slaves and houses. Number six, the contract states kol nichasai, all my property, it includes even his movable property. The Gemara continues its analysis of ambiguous contracts. Number one, the sold field bordered Reuven's field on one side, Shimon and Levi on the other side. The contract included Reuven and Shimon, leaving out Levi. Rav holds the buyer is entitled to only half the field. The reference to Reuven's field was for a landmark, not to include the whole side in the sale. Rav Kahanan Ravasi changed Rav's opinion. The buyer's property line is drawn a diagonal from the end of Reuven's property to half of the other side, the sale including 3/4 of the property. However, Rav agreed initially if the borders on both sides were divided between two owners, mentioning both owners on one side and one on the other, the boundary line is drawn as a diagonal. Selling half of the parcel required mentioning one name of each side. Number two, Reuven owns fields to the east and west, Shimon to the north and south of the field being sold. The seller wrote, I am selling you a field between Reuven and Shimon. The buyer is entitled to half. A diagonal is drawn through the half that lies between them. He is entitled to the whole field only if the seller writes a common boundary with Reuven and Shimon on two sides. Number three, the seller included in the contract only the corners, not the sides of the field. He could be selling the whole field or only an X-shaped field drawn from corner to corner. Number four, the seller drew abbreviated boundary lines shaped like the letter gamma, the third letter of the Greek alphabet, encompassing all sides at two ends diagonal to each other. He could be selling the whole field or a diagonal strip contained in the lines. Number five, two fields owned by different people bordered the seller's field on each side. The seller included in the contract the adjacent fields alternately. It could be his mentioning part of each boundary indicates a sale of the whole field, or 4 triangular parcels corresponding to the adjacent fields included in the contract. The ruling regarding the last 3 cases is unresolved. The burden of proof is on the buyer. Number 6. The seller named in the contract adjacent fields on 3 sides, not on the 4th. Rav holds his intent is to retain a furrow on that side. Shmuel holds the buyer acquires the whole field. The inclusion of the 4th side in the contract is unnecessary. The seller's intent is apparent by naming 3. Ravasi holds the buyer acquires a furrow on 3 sides. He extends Rav's opinion. His intent is to retain everything but furrows on 3 sides because just a furrow on the 4th side without the field is useless. Rava qualifies Rav's opinion. Number 1, he retains the furrow on the 4th side only if it protrudes beyond the border of the surrounding fields on the other 3 sides. Number 2, The protruding furrow has a hedge of palm trees or is large enough to plant 9 cobs of seed, otherwise the buyer acquires. Second version of Rabbis qualification. Number 1, the buyer acquires the furrow on the 4th side if it is contained in the boundaries of the surrounding fields, unless it has a hedge of palm trees or is large enough to plant 9 cobs of seed. If it protrudes, the buyer retains it even if it is too small to plant 9 cobs or lacks a hedge of palm trees. First version includes it in the sale if contained or protrudes, but lacks palm trees or the area to plant 9 cobs. The second version includes it in the sale only if contained and too small to plant 9 cobs or lack palm trees. The difference is contained and large enough to plant 9 cobs, protrudes and not large enough to plant 9 cobs. These cases are decided according to Shuda de Daine, a judge's discretion. If you're enjoying Daf and 5, please click on the link below, subscribe and become a sponsor. Shavua Tov.